Emma Rose adjusted her black dress for the 100th time that evening, her nervous fingers smoothing the simple fabric as she watched Manhattan's elite browse through the Harrison Gallery. At 21, she had never imagined she would be working at such a prestigious venue, surrounded by paintings worth more than most people earned in a lifetime. The charity auction was in full swing, and the gallery buzzed with the quiet conversations of collectors and socialites. Her art history degree was still 2 years away, but this part-time job helped pay for her modest apartment in Brooklyn. Tonight felt different, though. The energy in the room was electric, charged with the presence of some of the city's most influential people. Emma carried a silver tray of champagne glasses. Weaving carefully between groups of well-dressed guests, she had learned to move invisibly through these events, observing the wealthy patrons who seemed to exist in a completely different world from hers. The collision of two worlds, excuse me. Could you tell me about this piece? The voice was deep, cultured, with just a hint of warmth that made Emma look up from her tray. She found herself staring into the most striking pair of green eyes she had ever seen. The man was tall, probably in his late 20s, with dark hair that looked effortlessly styled and a jaw that could have been carved from marble. His black tuxedo was clearly custom-made, fitting his athletic frame perfectly. "I'm sorry, I'm just serving drinks tonight," Emma replied softly, feeling heat rise to her cheeks. "But I believe that's a Monet from his Water Lily series." The man smiled, and Emma felt her heart skip a beat. "You know art," he observed, stepping closer. "Most servers wouldn't recognize Impressionist work." "I study art history at NYU," Emma admitted, then immediately wondered why she was sharing personal information with a stranger. "Sebastian Knight," he introduced himself, extending his hand. When Emma hesitated, he added with a gentle smile, "I promise I don't bite." "Emma Rose," she replied, placing her small hand in his. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through her system. A different kind of conversation. Sebastian didn't let go of her hand immediately. Instead, he studied her face with an intensity that made Emma feel exposed, yet strangely comfortable. "Rose," he repeated, as if testing how her name sounded. "Beautiful name for a beautiful woman. Tell me, what draws you to art history?" Emma glanced around nervously, aware that she should be working, but something about Sebastian made her want to stay and talk. "I love how art captures human emotion across centuries. A painting can make you feel exactly what the artist felt hundreds of years ago." "That's a romantic way to view it," Sebastian said, his eyes never leaving her face. "I collect art myself, though I admit my approach is more practical. Investment potential, cultural significance, that sort of thing." "House. That sounds rather cold," Emma said before she could stop herself, then immediately looked mortified. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to judge," Sebastian laughed, a rich sound that made several nearby guests glance over. "Don't apologize. You're absolutely right, it is cold. Perhaps you could show me how to see art through your eyes sometime." Spilled wine incident. Before Emma could respond, disaster struck. A woman in an elaborate blue gown, clearly having enjoyed too much champagne, bumped into Emma from behind. The tray of glasses went flying, and red wine splashed across Sebastian's pristine white shirt. "Oh no," Emma gasped, setting down the empty tray and grabbing napkins from a nearby table. "I'm so sorry, this is completely my fault." The gallery went quiet as people turned to stare. Emma felt like she might disappear from embarrassment as she dabbed frantically at Sebastian's shirt, her cheeks burning with shame. "Emma, stop," Sebastian said gently, catching her hands. "It's just a shirt, but it's probably worth more than I make in 6 months," Emma whispered, tears threatening to spill. Sebastian tilted her chin up with his finger, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Look at me. Doesn't matter. Shirts can be replaced." The gallery manager, Mr. Harrison, appeared at Emma's side, his face red with anger. "Miss Rose, this is completely unacceptable. You're terminated immediately." "It won't be necessary," Sebastian interrupted smoothly. "The accident wasn't her fault. I saw what happened, Mr. Knight. I assure you, we'll handle this appropriately," Harrison said, clearly recognizing Sebastian as an important client. "I'm handling it," Sebastian replied with quiet authority. "Emma will be coming with me." An unexpected offer. 20 minutes later, Emma found herself in the back of Sebastian's black Bentley, still in shock from the evening's events. She had lost her job, humiliated herself in front of New York's elite, and somehow ended up in a car with one of the most attractive men she had ever met. "I can't believe this is happening," she murmured, staring out at the city lights. "Which part?" Sebastian asked, settling back in the leather seat across from her. He had removed his stained jacket and loosened his tie, making him look younger and more approachable. "All of it. Losing my job, ruining your shirt, sitting in a car that probably costs more than my college tuition." Sebastian studied her for a moment. "How much do you make at the gallery?" Emma looked uncomfortable. "That's personal." "Humor me. $15 an hour, about 20 hours a week." Sebastian pulled out his phone and made a quick calculation. "So roughly $15,000 a year?" Emma nodded, wondering where this was going. "I have a proposition for you," Sebastian said, leaning forward. "I need someone to help me understand art the way you do. To help me see the emotional side instead of just the investment potential. I'll pay you $50,000 a year, plus benefits." Emma's mouth fell open. "You're offering me a job? You don't even know me?" "I know enough," Sebastian replied. "You're intelligent, passionate about art, and honest. When you criticized my approach to collecting, you didn't try to take it back or flatter me, like most people would. That's rare in my world." A doubt. And the decision, Nima shook her head. "This is crazy. People don't just offer jobs to strangers, especially jobs that pay more than most people make." "I'm not most people," Sebastian said simply. "One built my company on taking calculated risks on people others overlook."
Oh, my instincts about people are usually right.
What exactly would I be doing? Helping me build a more meaningful art collection? Attending auctions with me? Researching pieces? Helping?
Me understand why certain works move people. You'd be my cultural consultant. Emma bit her lip, considering. And you'd really pay me $50,000 just to talk about art? Among other things, yes. Sebastian handed her a business card. "Think about it tonight. If you're interested, call me tomorrow." The car pulled up outside a modest apartment building in Brooklyn. Emma realized Sebastian must have somehow found out where she lived, which should have been concerning, but somehow felt protective instead. "Emma," Sebastian said as she reached for the door handle. "For what it's worth, tonight was the most interesting evening I've had in years." The sleepless night back in her tiny studio apartment, Emma lay awake staring at Sebastian's business card. Sebastian Knight, CEO, Knight Technologies. She had Googled him and discovered he was worth over $2 billion, had been featured on magazine covers, and was considered one of the most eligible bachelors in the country. What could someone like that possibly want with her? Emma was practical enough to know that men like Sebastian Knight didn't hire art students they had just met unless they wanted something more than professional advice. But there had been something in his eyes, loneliness that she recognized, because she felt it too. Despite his wealth and success, Sebastian had seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts, her perspective. He had defended her to the gallery manager and offered her an opportunity that could change her life. The morning. After Emma's roommate, Jessica, was already gone for her morning classes, when Emma finally dragged herself out of bed. The business card sat on her nightstand like a small rectangle of possibility. She made coffee with trembling hands and tried to think rationally. $50,000 would change everything. She could move to a better apartment, focus more on her studies, maybe even travel to see some of the great art collections in Europe. But what if Sebastian expected more than just professional consultation? Emma had never had a serious relationship, had barely dated at all. She was naive about many things, but she wasn't stupid. Men like Sebastian didn't usually show interest in girls like her without ulterior motives. On the other hand, he had been nothing but respectful the night before. Even when she had been flustered and embarrassed, he had been kind and protective. The phone call that changed everything, at exactly 10 in the morning, Emma dialed Sebastian's number with shaking fingers. Sebastian Knight's office answered a professional female voice. "Hi, this is Emma Rose. Mr. Knight asked me to call." "Oh yes, Miss Rose. Mr. Knight is expecting your call. Please hold." The line clicked, and then Sebastian's familiar voice came. "Through Emma, I was hoping you'd call. I've been thinking about your offer," Emma said, pacing her small living room. "I have some questions. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. Can you meet me for lunch? I'd like to show you what you'd be working with." "Working with?" "My private collection. It's at my penthouse. We can discuss the details of the position over lunch." Emma took a deep breath. Okay, where should I meet you? I'll send a car noon. I can take the subway, Emma. Sebastian's voice was gentle but firm. Let me send a car, please. Something in his tone made her agree. Okay, noon. As she hung up the phone, Emma realized her life was about to change in ways she couldn't even imagine. She had no idea that in a few hours, she would find herself in Sebastian Knight's private world, about to make a request that would alter both of their lives forever. The innocent girl who had spilled wine on a billionaire's shirt was about to discover that sometimes accidents lead to the most beautiful destinations. The elevator that carried Emma to Sebastian's penthouse seemed to rise forever. She watched the numbers climb past floors she could never afford to visit, her stomach fluttering with nervous anticipation. When the doors finally opened directly into Sebastian's apartment, Emma gasped audibly. The space was breathtaking, floor to ceiling. Windows offered a panoramic view of Manhattan, while the interior was a perfect blend of modern luxury and classical elegance. But what truly took Emma's breath away were the paintings covering every wall. Welcome to my world, Sebastian said. Appearing beside her, he had changed from his business suit into dark jeans and a white button-down shirt that somehow made him look even more attractive than he had in formal wear. Emma turned slowly, taking in masterpieces she had only seen in textbooks. Is that a real Picasso? She whispered, pointing to a blue period painting near the windows. It is, and that's a Van Gogh, a Degas, and a Cezanne, Sebastian said, watching her reaction with obvious pleasure. What do you think? Emma moved closer too. The Van Gogh, a vibrant landscape that seemed to pulse with life. It's incredible, but also kind of sad. Sad? Sebastian moved to stand behind her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. You have all these beautiful pieces, but they're just hanging here where only you can see them. Art is meant to be shared, to touch people's lives. These paintings are like birds in golden cages. Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. No one has ever said that to me before. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to criticize. Don't apologize. You're making me see things differently already, and you've been here less than 5 minutes. Lunch and deeper conversations. They ate lunch on Sebastian's private terrace. The city spread out below them like a glittering tapestry. Emma had never seen New York from this height, and the view was both exhilarating and intimidating. Tell me about your family, Sebastian said, refilling her wine glass with a vintage that probably cost more than her monthly rent. There's not much to tell, Emma replied, picking at her salad. My parents died in a car accident when I was 16. I've been on my own since then, working my way through college. Sebastian's expression softened. I'm sorry. It must have been incredibly difficult. It was. But it taught me to be independent, to fight for what I want. Emma met his eyes. What about you? What's it like growing up with all this? Sebastian leaned back in his chair, his green eyes distant, lonely mostly. My parents were always busy with their own lives. I learned early that money could buy anything except genuine human connection. Is that why you collect art? To feel less alone? The questions seemed to strike something deep in Sebastian. You see too much, Emma Rose? I see someone who surrounds himself with beauty, but doesn't let anyone close enough to share it with him. Sebastian stood abruptly and walked to the terrace, railing. My ex-fiancée left me 6 months ago. She said she loved me, but it turned out she loved my bank account more. When she found out I was planning to donate most of my wealth to charity eventually, she called off the wedding. Emma joined him at the railing. I'm sorry, that must have hurt terribly. It did, but it also opened my eyes. I realized I had never met anyone who cared about me rather than what I could give them. Until now? Emma asked softly. Sebastian turned to look at her, his eyes intense. Until now. The art lesson after lunch, Sebastian gave Emma a private tour of his collection. She moved from piece to piece like a woman possessed, explaining the historical context, the artist's emotional state, the techniques used. Her passion was infectious, and Sebastian found himself seeing his own collection through new eyes. This Monet, Emma said, stopping in front of a water lily painting similar to the one at the gallery. He painted this series when he was going blind. Again. You see how the brush strokes become more emotional, less precise? He was racing against time, trying to capture light before he lost the ability to see it. Sebastian moved closer to the painting. I never noticed that before. Art isn't just about technique or investment value, Emma continued, her voice growing, more animated. It's about human experience, about one person's attempt to share their vision of the world with others. The way you talk about it, you make it sound almost sacred. Emma blushed. I suppose it is to me. Art has been my companion through the loneliest times in my life. When I look at a beautiful painting, I feel connected to something larger than myself. Sebastian watched her face as she spoke, captivated by her passion. I want to understand. That feeling. You can, Emma said, turning to face him fully. But you have to be willing to open your heart, not just your wallet. An unexpected vulnerability as the afternoon wore on. Sebastian shared more about his life than he had with anyone in years. He told Emma about the pressure of running $1 billion company, about the isolation that came with success, about his fear that he would never find someone who loved him for who he was, rather than what he possessed. Sometimes I lie awake at night in this beautiful apartment, surrounded by priceless art, and I feel completely empty. He admitted as they sat in his living room, the city lights beginning to twinkle outside. Emma felt her heart ached for him. Money can't buy happiness, but it can't prevent it either. You just have to be willing to take risks with your heart, like hiring a stranger to be my art consultant. Sebastian asked with a wry smile like that. Yes. Hey. Sebastian moved closer to her on the couch. Emma, I have to be honest with you. Didn't offer you this job just because of your knowledge of art? Emma's pulse quickened. Why then? Because in 30 minutes of conversation, you made me feel more alive than I had in months. Because you looked at me like I was just a man, not a bank account. Because when you criticized my approach to art collecting, you were being real with me in a way no one has been in years. Sebastian, I know this is crazy. I know we just met. But I feel something with you that I've never felt before. Ma stood up abruptly, walking to the windows. This is all happening so fast. Yesterday, I was serving drinks at a gallery. Now I'm in a billionaire's penthouse, being offered a job that would change my life. Sebastian joined her at the windows. Change can be good, Emma, but only if you're brave enough to embrace it. Job offered details. Let me explain exactly what I'm proposing, Sebastian said, his voice becoming more businesslike. $50,000 a year to start, full health benefits, and a budget for you to attend art courses and exhibitions. Your job would be to help me build a collection that means something, not just one that impresses people. And what would you expect? From me in return, your expertise, your passion, your honesty. Nothing more than that, I promise. Emma studied his face, looking for any sign of deception. You really mean that? I do. Ma, I'm not the kind of man who has to coerce women into spending time with me. If something more than a professional relationship develops between us, it will be because we both want it, not because of any obligation or pressure. Okay, Emma said suddenly. Okay, I'll take the job, but I have conditions. Sebastian smiled. Name them. I want a contract that clearly outlines my responsibilities. I want to maintain my own apartment, my own independence. And if I ever feel uncomfortable or want to leave, I can do so without any drama or complications. Agreed? Anything else? Emma took a deep breath. I want you to promise me that you'll be honest about your feelings and expectations. I've never been in a situation like this before, and I need to know that I can trust you. Sebastian took her hands in his. You can trust me, Emma. I promise you that. The first assignment, I have something in mind for your first project, Sebastian said, leading her to his home office. There's an estate sale next week in the Hamptons. Private collector who recently passed away. I'd like you to come with me. Help me decide what pieces might be worth acquiring. You want me to travel with you? Emma asked, feeling suddenly nervous. Separate rooms, separate transportation if you prefer. This is about business, Emma, though I admit I'm looking forward to spending more time with you. Emma felt a flutter in her stomach at his words. When would we go? Friday afternoon, back Sunday evening? It would give us time to really examine the collection, attend the preview, and participate in the auction if we find something special. I've never been to the Hamptons, Emma admitted, and it will be another new experience for you. As the evening wound down, Sebastian arranged for his driver to take Emma home. As they waited for the elevator, he handed her an envelope. What's this? Emma asked. an advance on your salary, and information about the estate sale. Also, my private number. Call me if you have any questions about anything. In the elevator descending to the street, Emma opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $5,000 and detailed information about the upcoming auction. There was also a handwritten note. Thank you for helping me see art through new eyes. I'm looking forward to our journey together. The return home back in her tiny apartment, Emma sat on her bed staring at the check. $5,000 was more money than she had ever held at one time. It represented freedom, security, possibilities she had never dared to dream about. But more than the money, she couldn't stop thinking about Sebastian himself. The way he had looked at her, the vulnerability he had shown, the genuine interest he had taken in her thoughts and opinions. Emma had never been in love, had never even come close. She had always assumed that when it happened, it would be gradual, comfortable, predictable. She had never imagined it would feel like jumping off a cliff, exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. Was this love? Or was she just overwhelmed by Sebastian's wealth and attention? Emma tried to be honest with herself. Sebastian was attractive, intelligent and successful, but it was more than that. It was the loneliness she had seen in his eyes, the way he had listened to her talk about art, as if her words were precious gems, the respect he had shown her despite their vastly different backgrounds. Preparing for change, the next few days passed in a blur of preparation. Emma gave notice at her other part-time job, bought some new clothes suitable for her new position, and tried to prepare herself mentally for the weekend trip to the Hamptons. Sebastian called her every evening, sometimes to discuss the upcoming auction, sometimes just to talk. Their conversations ranged from art to philosophy to childhood memories. And Emma found herself looking forward to these calls more than she cared to admit. "Are you nervous about this weekend?" he asked during one of their conversations. "A little," Emma admitted. "I keep feeling like I'm going to wake up and discover this is all a dream." "It's not a dream, Emma. And you're going to be wonderful. Trust yourself." "Sebastian, can I ask you something personal?" "Anything." "Do you ever regret having so much money? Does it make relationships impossible?" Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. "Sometimes I think it would be easier to find genuine connection if I were just an ordinary man. But then I remember that my wealth also gives me the opportunity to make a difference in the world, to support causes I believe in, to help people like you, people like me, people with talent and passion who just need someone to believe in them." As Emma prepared for bed that night, she realized that her feelings for Sebastian were deepening with each conversation. She was falling for him, and she wasn't sure if that was wonderful or dangerous. Perhaps it was both. The Hamptons' journey Friday afternoon arrived with unexpected spring warmth. Emma stood outside her apartment building, clutching a small weekend bag, watching for Sebastian's car with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. When the black Bentley pulled up, her heart started racing. Sebastian stepped out to greet her, looking effortlessly elegant in casual khakis and a navy blazer. "Ready for your first Hamptons adventure?" he asked, taking her bag. "I think so," Emma replied, smoothing down her simple sundress. She had agonized over what to pack, unsure of the dress code for wealthy estate auctions. "You look perfect," Sebastian said, as if reading her mind. "Remember, we're there to evaluate art, not to impress anyone." The drive to the Hamptons took nearly 3 hours, but Emma barely noticed the time passing. She and Sebastian talked about everything and nothing, their conversation flowing as naturally as if they had known each other for years rather than days. "Tell me about the collector whose estate we're viewing," Emma said as they drove through increasingly upscale neighborhoods. Harold Pemberton. He was a shipping magnate who spent 50 years acquiring art. By all accounts, he had an excellent eye but was very private about his collection. "This will be the first time most of these pieces have been seen publicly. It must be sad for his family, having to sell his treasures." Sebastian glanced at her. "That's exactly the kind of perspective I need. Most collectors would only be thinking about potential bargains." The estate revealed the Pemberton estate was breathtaking, a sprawling mansion overlooking the ocean, with manicured gardens and guest houses scattered across the property. Emma felt intimidated by the sheer scale of wealth on display. "The preview is tomorrow morning," Sebastian explained, as they were shown to their rooms by the estate manager. Tonight is just for settling in and getting oriented. Emma's room was larger than her entire apartment, with French doors opening onto a private balcony overlooking the ocean. Luxurious, and felt like an imposter among the silk wallpaper and antique furniture. A soft knock at her door interrupted her nervous unpacking. "Come in," she called, expecting a member of the staff. Instead, Sebastian entered carrying 2 glasses of wine. "I thought you might like to watch the sunset from your balcony," he said. The view is supposed to be spectacular. They stepped outside. Together, and Emma gasped at the sight of the sun sinking toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that rivaled any masterpiece. "It's incredible," she whispered. Harold Pemberton had good taste in more than just art, Sebastian agreed. Moving to stand beside her at the balcony railing, they stood in comfortable silence for several minutes, watching the light change across the water. Emma was acutely aware of Sebastian's presence beside her, the warmth radiating from his body in the cooling evening air. "Emma," Sebastian said suddenly, his voice unusually serious, "I need to tell you something." "Hey," she turned to face him, her heart beating faster. "What is it?" "I've been thinking about this all week, and I need to be completely honest with you. My feelings for you go beyond professional interest. I'm attracted to you, Emma, more than attracted. But I don't want that to make you uncomfortable or feel pressured in any way." Emma felt her cheeks flush. "Sebastiana, let me finish," he said gently. "I meant what I said about keeping our professional relationship separate. If you want to maintain strict boundaries, I'll respect that completely. But I also wanted you to know where I stand, because I believe in honesty between us." Emma looked into his green eyes, seeing vulnerability and hope there. "I'm attracted to you too," she admitted softly. "But I'm also scared." "Scared of what?" "Of this world, of these feelings of not being enough for someone like you." Sebastian sat down his wine glass and took her hands in his. "Emma, you are more than enough. You're everything I didn't know I was looking for. I'm not experienced with men. I've never even had a serious relationship." The confession seemed to affect Sebastian deeply. "That doesn't matter to me. If anything, it makes you more precious." "Sebastian, there's something I need to ask you, and I need you to be completely honest." "Anything." Emma took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "If I were ready to be with you completely, would you be patient with me? Would you help me learn what it means to be with someone?" Sebastian's eyes darkened with emotion. "Emma, are you asking me to be your first?" She nodded, unable to speak. "The answer is yes. Absolutely yes. But only when you're completely sure, and only because you want to, not because you feel you should." The intimate confession that evening at dinner, the tension between them was palpable. They dined alone on the estate's terrace, surrounded by twinkling lights and the sound of waves in the distance. Emma found herself studying Sebastian's hands, imagining them touching her, and had to look away when the thoughts became too intense. "What are you thinking about?" Sebastian asked, noticing her distraction. "You," Emma admitted boldly, the wine making her braver than usual. Sebastian's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "What about me?" "About what it would be like to kiss you. About what it would feel like to have you touch me." The raw honesty in her voice made Sebastian's breath catch. "Emma, I know I'm being forward, but I've never felt this way before. When I'm with you, I feel like a different person, braver, more alive." Sebastian reached across the table and took her hand. "Do you want to go for a walk on the beach?" The beach was deserted, lit only by moonlight and the distant glow from the estate. They walked hand in hand along the water's edge, their feet sinking into the cool sand. "Sebastian," Emma said suddenly, stopping and turning to face him. "I want to ask you for something, and I need you to promise you'll consider it seriously." "What is it?" Emma's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "I want you to be my first. Not tonight, but soon. I want to learn about intimacy, with someone I trust, someone who cares about me." "Emma, do you understand what you're asking? I'm asking you to teach me about love, about passion, about what it means to give yourself to someone completely. And you're sure you want that someone to be me." "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Sebastian cupped her face in his hands. "Then yes, Emma. Yes, I will be honored to be your first." but we're going to take our time. Do this right. I want your first experience to be beautiful, not rushed." Standing there on the moonlit beach, Sebastian leaned down and kissed Emma for the first time. It was gentle at first, tentative, but as Emma responded, the kiss deepened with surprising passion. Emma had been kissed before, but never like this. Never with such tenderness and desire combined. She felt her knees go weak and clung to Sebastian's shoulders for support. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "Wow," Emma whispered. "Wow indeed," Sebastian agreed, resting his forehead against hers. "Emma, you have no idea what you do to me." "Show me," she whispered boldly. Sebastian groaned softly. "Not here, not like this. When we make love for the first time, it's going to be perfect. You deserve nothing less." The auction date the next morning brought dozens of potential buyers to view Harold Pemberton's collection. Emma and Sebastian moved through the crowded rooms, examining paintings, sculptures, and artifacts that represented a lifetime of passionate collecting. Emma's expertise proved invaluable. She spotted a small watercolor that most people were overlooking, recognizing it as an early work by an infamous artist. "This could be worth 10 times what they're estimating," she whispered to Sebastian. "Are you sure? Look at the brushwork. The signature style. This is definitely authentic, but it's from before he became well-known." Sebastian smiled at her with obvious pride. "This is exactly why I needed you." During the auction itself, Sebastian bid successfully on 3 pieces that Emma had identified as undervalued gems. Her joy at his success was infectious, and other bidders began to notice the young woman whose whispered advice was guiding one of the most successful buyers in the room. The return journey on the drive back to the city Sunday evening, Emma was quiet, processing everything that had happened over the weekend. "Regrets?" Sebastian asked, glancing at her. "None," Emma replied firmly. "This weekend has been like a fairy tale. It doesn't have to end when we get back to the city." Emma turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I want to keep seeing you, Emma. Not just for work, but personally. I want to take you to dinner, 2 shows, 2 art exhibitions. I want to court you properly." "Court me?" Emma laughed at the old-fashioned term. "Yes, court you. I want to win your heart the right way, not just because I can offer you financial security." "Sebastian, you already have my heart." He pulled the car over to the side of the road and turned to face her fully. "Do I really?" "Yes," Emma said simply. "I love you. I don't know when it happened, but it did. I love your kindness, your vulnerability, the way you listen to me like my thoughts matter. I love who you are when you're not trying to be the successful businessman." "I love you too," Emma rose. "More than I thought possible." This time when Sebastian kissed her, there was no hesitation, no uncertainty. It was a kiss full of promise and passion, the kind of kiss that seals a future. The intimate request 3 weeks later, Emma stood in Sebastian's penthouse apartment, her heart racing with nervous anticipation. She had called him that morning and asked if she could come over that evening, saying she had something important to discuss. Sebastian was waiting for her with wine and her favorite Chinese takeout. But Emma was too nervous to eat. "What did you want to talk about?" Sebastian asked gently, sitting beside her on the couch. Emma took a deep breath. "Remember what I asked you on the beach? About being my first, of course? I'm ready now. Tonight, if you're willing." Sebastian set down his wine glass and took her hands. "Emma, are you absolutely certain? There's no rush, no pressure?" "I'm certain," Emma said, her voice growing stronger. "I've thought about this every day since the Hamptons. I want to learn about love with you, Sebastian. I want to give myself to you completely." "Then come here," Sebastian whispered, pulling her into his arms. What happened next was tender and passionate, careful and overwhelming all at once. Sebastian kept his promise to make Emma's first time beautiful, taking hours to worship her body, to show her pleasures she had never imagined. Afterward, they lay entwined in Sebastian's massive bed. Emma traced patterns on his chest with her fingertips. "That was incredible," she whispered, her voice full of wonder. "You were incredible," Sebastian replied, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "How do you feel?" "Different. Complete. Like I finally understand what all the love songs are about. Sebastian chuckled softly. I love you, Emma rose. More than I ever thought possible. I love you too, Emma replied, lifting her head to look at him. Sebastian, can I ask you something? Anything? What happens now? I mean, with us, with everything. Sebastian was quiet for a moment, his fingers running through her hair. What do you want to happen? I want to build a life with you. I want to help you see the world through different eyes. And I want you to show me things I never dreamed possible. I want us to create something beautiful together. Then that's what we'll do, Sebastian said simply. Emma, you've changed everything for me. Before I met you, I was just existing, going through the motions of a successful life without really living it. You've shown me what it means to truly connect with another person. You've changed me too, Emma admitted. You've made me braver, more confident. You've shown me that I'm worthy of love and respect. 6 months later, Emma stood in the gallery space of Sebastian's penthouse, now transformed into a private exhibition area. The walls were filled with the pieces they had acquired together over the past months, each one chosen not for its investment potential, but for its emotional impact. The opening is in an hour, Sebastian said, joining her in front of a stunning the landscape they had discovered at a small auction in Vermont. Are you nervous? A little, Emma admitted. I still can't believe we're actually doing this. They had decided to open Sebastian's collection to the public once a month, creating an intimate gallery experience that combined Emma's educational expertise with Sebastian's resources. The goal was to make great art accessible to people who would never normally have the opportunity to see such pieces up close. You're going to be wonderful, Sebastian assured her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. You have a gift for helping people see beauty, Emma. Tonight, you're going to change how dozens of people think about art. We're going to change how they think about art, Emma corrected, leaning back against his chest. The opening was a tremendous success. Emma moved through the crowd with natural grace, sharing stories about each piece, helping visitors understand the emotions and experiences behind the brushstrokes and sculptures. Sebastian watched her with obvious pride. Seeing how she had blossomed in the months since they had been together, the proposal 3 months later, Sebastian took Emma back to the beach in the Hamptons where they had shared their first kiss. They walked along the same stretch of sand, now familiar and precious to both of them. Do you remember what you asked me here that first night? Sebastian said as they stopped at the spot where they had stood months before. I asked you to be my first, Emma replied, smiling at the memory. You did. And tonight, I want to ask you something. Sebastian dropped to one knee on the sand, pulling out a ring box that made Emma gasp. Emma rose. You came into my life like a beautiful accident and changed everything. You taught me that real wealth isn't measured in money, but in love, in connection. In shared dreams, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life learning about the world through your eyes? Through her tears, Emma could barely speak. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Sebastian, yes. The ring was perfect, a simple, elegant design that reflected Emma's natural beauty rather than trying to overwhelm it. Emma realized that her innocent request months ago had led to something more beautiful than she had ever imagined possible. The wedding there. Wedding 6 months later was intimate and elegant, held in the sculpture garden of a museum they both loved. Emma wore a simple but stunning dress that made her look like a piece of art herself, while Sebastian couldn't stop smiling as he watched her walk down the aisle toward their future together in his vows. Sebastian said, Emma, you taught me that. The most valuable things in life can't be bought or collected. You showed me that true beauty lies in authenticity, in vulnerability, in the courage to open your heart completely to another person. Emma's vows brought tears to everyone's eyes. Sebastian, you saw something in me that I didn't even know existed. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. You taught me that love isn't about being worthy of someone else's affection, but about finding someone whose heart speaks the same language as yours. Emma stood in their newly opened public gallery, watching a group of schoolchildren marvel at a Van Gogh they had recently acquired. Her hand rested on her growing belly, where their first child was developing. Happy? Sebastian asked, joining her with 2 cups of coffee. Credibly, Emma replied, accepting the decaf coffee he had brought her. Do you ever think about how different our lives would be if I hadn't spilled that wine on your shirt? Every day, Sebastian admitted. But I don't think it was really an accident, Emma. I think the universe knew we needed each other. Emma smiled, watching as one of the children pressed her nose against the protective glass in front of a painting. Completely absorbed in the swirls of color and emotion. I think you're right, she said. Sometimes the most beautiful things in life start with the most unexpected requests. Sebastian kissed her temple gently. What's our next project going to be? Teaching our child to see the world with wonder. Emma replied without hesitation, and maybe opening that school for underprivileged kids we talked about. I love the way your mind works, Mrs. Knight. I love you, Mr. Knight. As they stood together watching strangers fall in love with art, Emma reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. Her innocent request for Sebastian to be her first had blossomed into something neither of them could have imagined. A love story that continued to unfold with each passing day. The shy art student who had once served wine at gallery openings was now a respected curator and educator, while the lonely billionaire had learned that the greatest treasures couldn't be hung on walls or locked in vaults. They were found in shared glances, whispered conversations, the daily choice to build something beautiful together. Their love story had begun with spilled wine and an unexpected job offer, but it had grown into something timeless and precious. A masterpiece painted not with brushstrokes, but with trust, passion, and the kind of deep connection that transforms two separate lives into one beautiful shared existence. And every night, as they fell asleep in each other's arms, surrounded by the art they had chosen together, both Emma and Sebastian knew that the most beautiful creation of their lives was still being written. One day at a time, one shared dream at a time. The innocent girl's intimate request had indeed changed everything, creating a love story that would inspire others for generations to come.